The Fruitful Entrepreneurs podcast aims to increase the visibility of female leaders in business, inspire a limitless mindset to build your own blooming brand, and leave a positive impact with a purpose-driven business. Welcome to the Fruitful Entrepreneur podcast. I'm your host, Shelley Tilbrook, and today I'm joined by special guest, Brady Yoshia. She is the founder and CEO of Brady Marcs, who provide tailored property sourcing from experienced buyers agents. Brady heads up the team of experienced property professionals. She's also the Vice-President of Hera Women, a leadership organisation for women in business, and hosts the Brady Marcs podcast. With years of running her own retail business in the fiercely competitive telecommunications sector, she sharpened her negotiation skills and developed an appreciation for customer service. So welcome, Brady. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. I look forward to delving into all of your experience. But first, tell us a little bit more about your background and the key milestones in your career.
So my career has changed a couple of times. They do say that in today's day and age, people change their career paths about 4 times. Mm-hmm. So I actually come from a training and development background. So I was originally in corporate training, and that was very, very much in the early days of the telecommunications deregulation in Australia. So I was very lucky to work for a major telecommunications company, and then went into my own mobile phone retail business, where we had 3 retail outlets in the city. And so I started working in that space, and from there, after having 10 years within a retail environment, I had children. It was very difficult to firstly go back into corporate training and also working in retail. So I decided it was time for a change, and I wanted a career that allowed me to be a mother as well as be able to have a career. So real estate has always been a very big passion of mine. I love property. And so I became a real estate agent. I was a selling agent for a period of time, and then I took the plunge and became a buyer's agent. So after being a buyer's agent for 5 years, I decided to open my own business. And hence, this is where I am now. I've had Brady Marcs Buyers Advisory for nearly 6 years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the journey.
Fantastic. I think having children is often a transition stage for most women in business, because it is a juggle.
Yes.
And it certainly was, I suppose, the instigator of when I started my first business back in 2009. So I can absolutely relate to wanting to be a good mother and be there for your children, but also still have that career. So I think I am correct. Your first foray into business ownership was that telecommunications retail store.
Yes.
So you talked about in that role honing your negotiation skills, and tell us how you learnt those lessons or how you developed your negotiation skills.
Yes. So it was very early on in the piece when mobile phones became quite popular in Australia, and you needed to be able to have good negotiating skills, not only with the major companies like Vodafone, Optus, and Telstra, but also with the clients to win the business. So it was a combination of both, because you wanted to be able to negotiate the best possible deals to be able to resell onto the clients. So I felt that was an exceptionally big learning curve for me. I was quite young. I was in my 20s at the time, and therefore I had to learn very quickly, and was also a male-dominated business. So for me, it was learning how to communicate and be heard in that industry.
Fantastic. Yeah, I would say there are a lot of industries where it is male-dominated. You do sort of have to step into that leadership a lot quicker.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about the current business, the structure, what you do, who you help, and how you help them.
So the current business essentially is a buyer's agency where we help all types of buyers buy property. So from first home buyers to people that are looking to upsize, downsize, people building property portfolios, buying properties in your self-managed super fund, you name it, even commercial properties. People just need help. Everybody has a selling agent when they're looking to sell their home, but not everybody uses a buyer's agent. And I have the philosophy that everybody should be able to get the right advice in this fiercely competitive market. And a lot of buyers have got buyer fatigue. So from our perspective, what we do is we come into the picture to help them. So I have a team of highly experienced buyer's agents. Everybody's got a different skill set and has had vast years of experience in the real estate arena. So we've got a lot of experience from the property management perspective. Quite a few of us were selling agents and working in relocations, working with expats and property development. And so what we do is we help our clients find the right property, negotiate for them. We do everything right from inception until the property's settled and beyond. My philosophy is having a client for life. So it's not just about getting the deal done. It's about making them feel that they can call us with any question at any point in their property journey. There's a team of 10 of us. We buy properties all across New South Wales and in Canberra. So clients that are looking to relocate from other states to either Sydney or Canberra, expats coming back, or just locals within both states.
Certainly buying a home or buying a property is often one of your biggest investments. And so I hadn't really thought about it before now, but using a buyer's agent just seems so much smarter when it is such a significant investment for most people.
Yes, and there's so much more value add to having the assistance and the guidance of a buyer's agent than thinking, they'll just find us the property. It's not that. It's also making sure that prior to signing a contract, the pending DAs have been checked in that area. You don't want to buy a property and then 6 to 12 months time down the line see that a massive apartment block's been built next door, going to be built there, and your privacy's gone. Even big homes that are being built, you want to know what's coming into the area that you're looking to buy in.
Absolutely.
And we also help people bid at auctions. Auctions can be very daunting for everyone, including the vendors. So we offer a service where we can go and bid on behalf of our clients or on behalf of clients, negotiation only services. So we're there to assist wherever we can.
Yeah, terrific. So tell us what it was like starting this business and what it was like in the early days of getting established. Did you have a network or was it starting from a clean slate?
So it was a mix of emotions. So obviously very exciting, but also quite daunting. Yeah. When I started the business, buyer's agencies were common, but not as common as what they are today. So it was twofold. The education piece was essential. A lot of people didn't even know what a buyer's agent does. So it was a matter of using my network, which was quite big, but I also felt that I needed to do a lot of groundwork in terms of going out there, meeting with lots of different spheres of influences. So, for example, mortgage brokers, solicitors, interior designers, you name it. So I needed a lot of different hats to begin with this business. And that's what a woman in business is all about. So taking the skill set that I had and then adopting a growth mindset to learn other skills very, very quickly. And at the same time, you've got to have a very thick skin, not only being in real estate, but being in business in general. There's lots of knocks along the way, and there's lots of highs and lots of lows. But for me, it was more of an exciting time frame because things started and they moved very quickly. I didn't know which way it was going to go, but if you believe in yourself and you're confident with the service you're going to offer, then it's going to go, it's going to work. But when you come into a new business or into a new space, not feeling confident and not believing in yourself, I think the roadblocks are already there. So for me, I had this very positive mindset and my team grew very quickly. I couldn't do it on my own.
Yeah.
So once I started getting new team members on board, it just evolved.
I agree with a lot of things you said there, whether it's about mindset or self-belief. But I picked up on your transition, obviously, from the telecommunications industry into real estate. Was that a huge learning curve, or was that exciting to have the change? I'd be curious to sort of hear more about that change.
It was a very big change. It was a completely different mindset. So, firstly, when I started off in the telecommunications industry, I was in a corporate environment. So, going from corporate into retail, that was a big jump as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a huge adjustment for me because the corporate and retail space, you go to work, you put the hours in, and you see the rewards almost immediately. In the real estate arena, what people don't understand is that it takes a long time to see the rewards. So that was a very big mindset shift. And it took a good 2 years before I could actually say I can start seeing the rewards. And what you put in, you definitely get out. And I do feel that there is some similarity in terms of being in a fiercely competitive industry like the mobile phone sector was, and in real estate. So there were a lot of similarities, but it's a completely different game.
You're dealing with people on a daily basis, and obviously with your experience in corporate training as well, you've developed a great understanding of people and no doubt human psychology. Applying it to your business now, what have you really learned about the buying triggers when it comes to reading people? Or can you share some tips for the audience in closing a sale and things like that?
You've got to have very good listening skills. And when you're listening to a client, quite often what they initially are saying is very different to really what they want. So it's about physically going out to different properties and showing them different things and then seeing their reaction. So it's about observing their senses, I would say. Buying property is all about the senses. So first of all, you need to be emotional, because if there's no emotional attachment to something, if it's a primary residence property, it's not going to be the right property for them. But when you have a client that comes to you and tells you that they want a large home in a specific area, but in reality, they don't want to do the maintenance and they don't actually understand what it takes to have a big home, then it's not right for them. So you've also got to be able to know how to communicate to them in a very nice way, say to them, I actually feel that a smaller house in this location is better for you. You've mentioned in so many occasions how you like to be close to cafes and restaurants or close to the beach, but buying a house in suburbia that's very large, that seems appealing because it's quiet, may not be the right property for you. So my tips would be, firstly, listening to your client, but then actually going out and physically showing them different things and presenting different scenarios and seeing what their reaction is. And you'll be surprised at how people think they know what they want, but they actually don't. After having years experience in the real estate arena and dealing with people, you sort of get a sixth sense that you'll know. As soon as you walk into a place, you'll know if it's right for that client or not. So I think a gut feel is also very important. Like with anything in life, as women, sometimes we try not to listen to our gut feel because we want our heads to say, this is what we got to do, that's what we got to do. But it isn't always the case. Our gut feel, I think, has a lot to say for a lot of things in life. So I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. No, I'm just relating it back to my business, but how you say, I look for the reaction. And when I'm doing design work, whether it's branding or websites, I love to present it to the client, partly to see that reaction, are we on the right track, as opposed to just sending off links or sending off documents to get their feedback. Because I think it's that reaction that you're looking for, and you want them to absolutely love it. Wholeheartedly. And I also absolutely agree with intuition. I think I feel like intuition is driving you the whole way. And often I find where I've made a mistake is where I haven't listened to it. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely great advice.
I'll give you an example. So we had a client who started the journey with us. The very first property that she walked through, she absolutely loved, but thought, I can't buy this property. It's the first property I've walked through. But after a period of time, having viewed multiple properties in multiple areas, we came back to the very first property, and that was the right one for her. So her journey was that she needed to come full circle.
I've often found that my best lessons have come from mistakes or experience. Do you recall a mistake that's actually helped you prosper in the long run?
So I don't know if I'm going to say a mistake, but what I will say is when I first started my buyer's agency, I was actually affiliated with a very well-known real estate brand. And in the beginning, I thought it was going to be a very, very good partnership. We took off and we did very well. But the reality is that there was a part of me that kept saying, I don't think this is right. I don't think it's going to be the right association long term. But I had to go through that process and be exposed to the day-to-day running of the business, as well as the interactions with people from that company, to realize that I needed to do another rebrand, which was the best thing I could have done. So Brady Marcs, the brand, actually was born after I'd started the business. So a year and a half after the business started, I rebranded. And my best lesson was that, again, coming back to intuition, and not trying to convince yourself that something is going to work when you know it's not going to work.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. You've built a team, you mentioned of 10 staff, and I see it's female skewed in a male-dominated industry. What's your advice for recruiting and managing a team? How do you bring in your own style of leadership to support the team?
So my philosophy has always been, it's about sharing the love. And what I mean by that is, it's not just about me. It's about making sure that I can help my team members grow and be the best version of themselves and grow their businesses within my business. So it's providing opportunities. It's providing a lot of training and having an ethos within the business of team collaboration. There's nothing worse than having people feel they're competing with each other within an environment. So in the real estate sector, there's a lot of competition, particularly in selling agencies. I don't have that within my business. We often collaborate together, and some of our clients will have more than one buyer's agent working on a brief. And it's that constant check-in with my team. It's very hard in the world we live in today to have a good work-life balance. I try and promote that. We have some weeks where we work really, really hard, and we even work 7 days because that's the way the real estate world works. But it's about having a bit of a debrief from time to time with the team and giving them the tools to be able to make the right decisions as to when they need to pull back and have some time out. Having fun along the way is so important. If you don't have fun with your team, you're going to lose interest. And so it's about helping them grow, helping them build, and having a balance.
Yeah, there's some great philosophies to follow, particularly the enjoyment side of enjoying coming to work, I think is really important. But supporting their personal development as well, because your business is going to prosper from them prospering. So yeah, right. I think that's really good advice. Is building your personal brand something that you think about? And if yes, what strategies do you adopt? Because I certainly would akin personal branding into the real estate industry as something that's important. So I'd love to hear what you're doing.
So it's very important to me to build a personal brand, but to build it well. I always say, if you're going to do something, do it properly, or otherwise don't do it at all. So there's a lot of thought that goes into whatever goes out there into the general public. So whether it's about our social media, or about a new product offering that we're going to launch, or a new service or something like that, I have a team behind the scenes, a very skilled marketing team that help me along the way. That's not my area of expertise. I'm a visionary, so I can see what I want, but I need the assistance to put things into place. And I always feel with building a brand, it's about looking at it from the outside in. How would somebody look at our brand and be attracted to it? What can we do to make it more appealing? And look, we've learned some lessons along the way from a marketing perspective. It hasn't always been perfect. I guess trial and error does work, has to work in some instance, because otherwise it can't be perfect all the time. And I'm always looking at, when you build a brand, I think it's about looking at it that it doesn't date, and that you can grow different things with that brand, as well as one never knows. Can the brand be an international? Can it be a national brand? I think you've got to always have that in mind. And I mean, at this stage, I'm not going internationally, but you never know what can happen. So always looking at all those different aspects and how appealing is it to different sectors of the general public.
And I think also just on the personal branding side, though, for yourself, you're putting, are you investing into sharing, I suppose, your leadership vision and your personal brand through whether it's LinkedIn or podcasts and things like that?
Yes. So we've got the Brady Marcs podcast and also LinkedIn. We share a lot of information on LinkedIn. We have lots of blog posts that go out, newsletters that go out. I'm a firm believer of education. So I come back to my early skill set of where my career began, and that was all training and development. And I feel that as a person, I need to keep learning, and therefore I like my team to keep learning, and I'm there to educate the general public as well, giving them the tools that they can make the right decisions.
Terrific. What are the toughest challenges that you've faced in business, and how did you navigate that?
So I think the toughest challenge would have been that rebrand and dealing with male domineering personalities and different viewpoints. My biggest challenge is I'm quite an emotional person, and I quite often put emotion into things, which sometimes isn't a good thing. And so I've had to learn to take a step back in some instances. I think when you're dealing with different personalities, and particularly with people that are in the real estate world that are going through challenges within their lives, they don't know how they're coming across, and they sometimes pick out their bad days or their challenging times out on us. So I've had to learn not to take things to heart too seriously. And I think you've got to think very quickly on your feet. And it's also challenging when you're working with a client. They are very heavily invested emotionally in a particular property, and then miss out on that property. It's about having the right wording, being able to help the client over that little hurdle as well. So it's not one specific thing in my business, but it's different things that I've had to toughen up on.
I can relate to all of those things of whether it's any rejection or whether it's any sort of challenge that you face. You do have to understand that sometimes those things are other people's experiences influencing their, I suppose, reaction to a situation as opposed to what you've actually done. So,
yeah, exactly.
So through your experience in education, what 3 skills have you mastered that you know you can transfer to any business, or just skills for life, essentially? What would you rate as your top 3?
Leadership, I would say, is number 1. And I've done a lot of courses myself in learning and reading a lot of books. So leadership would be one. That's a really good question because I haven't really looked at myself. I've always been there to try and help other people. Negotiation skills is also very important, and customer service.
Yeah, and absolutely, those three are transferable to any business, but really valuable in life too. So,
yeah.
I saw that you announced that your business contribute a portion of all commissions for properties through Brady Marcs Buyers Advisory as a donation to the Hornsbury Ku-ring-gai Women's Shelter. So tell us what is important to you about that particular social contribution.
So I'm very passionate about everybody having a roof over their head. And I think that on a day-to-day basis, my team and I help people make their dreams come true. And every woman should have a safe place to go to. Never mind, getting yourself out of a tricky situation or a violent situation, but not knowing where to go to is daunting in itself. So it's close to my heart to help where I can make sure that women in need have a safe haven where they can go and have a roof over their head and feel like they have a home of their own.
You've given me goosebumps just thinking about that. So, I think in business, we're striving to, increase profits and grow the business. But when you're actually doing something that's, socially good, a really positive social cause like that is, it makes us feel good about going to work. And there's a deeper reason behind why we're trying to grow is helping others. So I think that's really commendable.
Yes.
So for our female audience listening, can you give us some tips on negotiation or provide some insight into the process that you would go through?
So when you say tips on negotiation, are you talking about negotiating in general? Or,
yes, in general, yeah.
So firstly, what I always say is do your research. Understand if there are previous, so in our industry would be looking at whether there are previous sales, if they're comparable sales, any research or evidence that is around, have a look at that first. Because I think when you're informed, you've got a better mindset with what you're going into. So research, familiarize yourself with whatever the business is or whatever you're trying to do. And I think that what you've got to do is you've got to have two figures in mind. So you've got to have one figure that you're comfortable at and another figure that is your absolute walk away, that you're not going to regret anything. So that you have got a starting point to get you to the one figure that you're comfortable with. So essentially maybe have three figures then, I would say. One figure to start, one figure that you're comfortable with, and one figure that's your absolute walk away or it's not worth negotiating in the space.
And again, your expertise in property, what advice can you provide if we want to land our dream home?
So again, familiarize yourself, which is very similar to what I've said before. Familiarize yourself with other properties in that area, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a house, townhouse. Go and have a look and see what is recently sold. Have a look at what the pricing was, and then look at the property that you're looking at and see, does it directly compare to what that property was? And if it doesn't, how similar is it? So that'll give you a good understanding of the pricing. And once you've familiarized yourself with recent sales, have a look at what's on market, and see what prices they are going for, what the guides are that they're offering. Any guide that you see, the expectation is always going to be 10 to 20% higher than that guide that you see. So bearing in mind that if you see something advertised at $1 million, the expectation is actually more than $1 million. So you've got to factor that in. Another thing that people often forget is the stamp duty. So factor the stamp duty in as well. And another tip that I would say is make sure you do have your finance in place prior to going to put an offer in on a property, because things can move very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, great advice. And is there anything that you're working on at the moment that's special or new that you wanted to share?
Yes, so we are working on a new service that is going to be very exciting, particularly for people that want the service but don't want to. I don't want to give away too much information, but it's essentially a service for people that don't want to pay the fees, the full fees of what a buyer's agent charges, but you're still having the assistance of a buyer's agent. It's not the same as our full service, but it's something very exciting that allows everybody to have the opportunity to be guided and make the right choices and decisions with their property purchases.
Terrific. Well, I'll have to keep my eyes out for that when you announce that.
Yes.
And finally, how can people get in contact with you if they're interested in your services? You're obviously New South Wales based, but
and Canberra as well.
Yeah, terrific. Yep. So yeah, tell us how they can get in touch.
So they can either email me directly, brady@bradymarcs.com.au, go to our website, or give me a call, send me a text message. So all my details are on our website, on our social media channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Any of those platforms are easy to reach me.
Wonderful. Well, we'll certainly put your contact details when we share the podcast as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is, even though you're working in real estate, a lot of those lessons and those skills that you've developed are applicable to my business, applicable to many businesses. So I'm sure many of the audience and female founders listening today will gain a lot of insight and help for their business going forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.